Elara clawed at the frozen earth, her fingernails tearing against the roots of the grass. The pain in her ankle was a white-hot spike, but the sound was worse, the grinding, scraping chorus of marble dragging itself over soil. The cherub pulled harder, jerking her backward into the dark. Behind it, the shadows were alive. The white shapes of the dancers were closing in, their stone arms outstretched, their faces twisted into hungry, jagged smiles. They didn't want to dance. They wanted to consume. "No!" Elara screamed, kicking out with her free foot. Her boot connected with the cherub's face with a dull thwack, chipping its nose, but the creature didn't let go. It only pulled harder. She was 10 feet from the fountain now, 5 feet from the crush of the dancers. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the cold touch of stone hands. Crack! The sound was louder than a gunshot. It wasn't the sound of breaking bone, it was the sound of a mountain splitting in half. The ground bucked violently, throwing Elara onto her side. The cherub's grip faltered. Silence fell over the garden. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Elara looked up. The central pedestal of the fountain was empty. Standing in the basin knee-deep in dead leaves was the Grey Lord. But he was no longer a statue. He was a golem of war. He had torn his own legs free from the pedestal, shattering the stone base that had held him for a century. Chunks of granite crumbled from his boots as he took a step forward. Thoom. The earth shook with his weight. The white marble dancers hesitated. They seemed small suddenly, fragile. Caelum didn't speak. He roared a sound of grinding tectonic plates. He lunged forward, moving with a terrifying speed for something made of solid rock. A dancer reached for him. Callum's grey arms swept out, backhanding the figure. The white marble shattered on impact, sending a spray of stone shrapnel into the night air. He was unstoppable. He was a storm of grey stone ploughing through the white. He grabbed the arguing men by their heads and smashed them together, dust pluming like smoke. He kicked the tripping woman, sending her crashing into the rose bushes. He was coming for her. The cherub on Elara's ankle shrieked to sound like metal on slate and scrambled back. Caelum didn't hesitate. He reached down, his massive stone hand closing around the cherub's entire body. He squeezed. There was a sickening crunch, and the cherub crumbled into dust and gravel. Elara lay there, gasping, staring up at the towering figure of the Grey Lord. He loomed over her, terrifying and magnificent. His face was still a mask of stone, but his eyes were frantic. He knelt, the ground trembling. He scooped her up in his arms as if she weighed nothing. He was cold, so incredibly cold and hard as iron against her bruised ribs. "Hold on!" The voice was rough, scraping out of a throat that shouldn't be able to speak. He ran. He charged toward the gatehouse, thundering down the gravel path. Behind them, the surviving statues screeched, dragging themselves in pursuit, but they were too slow. Caelum was fueled by something stronger than a curse. They reached the iron gates. Caelum didn't stop to open them. He lowered his shoulder and smashed through, the rusted hinges snapping like twigs. They crossed the threshold of the property line. And then he fell. It wasn't a stumble, it was a collapse. Caelum crashed to his knees on the asphalt of the main road, dropping Elara gently onto the grass verge before he tipped forward, his heavy body hitting the ground with a final earth-shaking thud. "Caelum!" Elara scrambled over to him. He lay still. The grey stone of his coat was motionless. The light in his eyes was fading, turning back to dead, matte granite. "No," Elara sobbed, pressing her hands against his back. "No, you don't get to save me and die. You don't get to do that." She frantically rubbed his shoulders, trying to find warmth, but he was freezing. He was just a statue again. A broken statue lying on the side of the road. "Please," she whispered, leaning her forehead against his cold neck. "Please come back." A tear slipped from her eye, hot and salty, and landed on the grey stone of his neck. Sa-ara-k. Elara pulled back. A hairline fracture appeared where her tear had fallen. A soft golden light began to pulse from deep within the crack. "Si-ar-ar-ar-ak." The fracture spread. It raced down his spine, across his shoulders, up to his jaw. It sounded like ice breaking on a frozen lake. Chunks of grey stone began to flake away, and beneath them, was skin. Pale, human skin, flushed with heat. Elara gasped, reaching out to help. She pulled at a piece of the stone coat, peeling it away like the shell of a hard-boiled egg. Underneath wasn't carved rock, it was a shoulder, warm and firm. She brushed the dust from his face, and the grey mask crumbled away, revealing the man she had seen in her dream. Caelum took a breath. It was a ragged, gasping inhale, the first breath of a man who had been holding it for 100 years. His back arched, shedding the last of the stone debris. He rolled over, coughing, his chest heaving. He looked up at the stars, blinking, as if seeing them for the first time. Then he looked at Elara. His eyes were hazel, bright, wet, and alive. "Elara!" he croaked, his voice raw but human. "I'm here," she cried, laughing through her tears. She grabbed his face, her thumbs brushing away the last specks of granite dust from his cheekbones. "I'm right here." He reached up, his hand trembling. His fingers were warm against her skin. "The curse, broken," she whispered. "You broke it. You left the garden." He sat up slowly, looking down at his own hands, flexing his fingers in wonder. He looked back at the dark silhouette of Blackwood Manor in the distance. The garden was silent. The magic was dead. He turned back to her, a smile breaking across his face, a real smile, not a carved one. "I believe," he said softly, "that I owe you a dance." Elara pulled him into a hug, burying her face in his neck. He smelled like rain and old earth and new life. "Later," she promised, holding him tight as the first light of dawn began to bleed over the horizon. "We have a whole lifetime for that."